Welcome to the second meeting of November of the Torrington City Council. We're glad to see you here. We have a few more people than typically attend one of our meetings, so that's good news. So anyway, we'll call the meeting to order, and before we go any further than that, I want to thank Ryan and Grant Cates from KGOS KERM for covering us live and live audio, and also putting us up on the city's website. Cindy Shealy from the Torrington Telegram, thank you for covering us. Appreciate that you're here. From there, let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That. Anytime.
Well, again, we have a great fall, and it's starting to get a little cooler, but the fall has been great. I think and hope that we can expect the same as the season progresses, at least through Thanksgiving. The leaves are gone, and we've had our first bit of snow. Before we hunker down with winter, we'd encourage everyone to get outside and enjoy this beautiful Wyoming fall weather. And we know for sure that it's not going to last forever. Veterans Day activities reminded us of the sacrifices made by those who've come before us and who continue to this date to put their lives on the line for our freedom. Hopefully we've all taken a moment to reflect on how fortunate we are. Soon Thanksgiving and Christmas is going to be dominating our holiday plans. As of Monday, November 14th, that's yesterday, there are 7 new COVID exposures that can officially be reported. Currently 1 person being treated at community hospital for COVID-related illness and 1 influenza patient as well. Our community health risk has been reduced from high to medium, and that's good news. There was a vaccination clinic held today in the Pony Express room. I expect another one in 2 weeks from today. The bivalent Omicron booster is also available. Please call Public Health for an appointment at the next available clinic. We continue to ask everyone to be aware of our children, our parents, buses, and the activity that is taking place around our schools. Please slow down in those areas. Speed limit in school zones is 20 miles per hour. Lights, signs, and painted crosswalks are visible in all those areas. Soon the snow will fall in enough quantity that it'll make the streets slick. Driving will be difficult. Please slow down, put your phone down, refrain from talking and texting while driving in our community. The city, with the support of the Rotary Club, is going to be adding additional crosswalks and signage to be installed in the next couple of months. Please slow down and use caution in those areas where the projects are being completed. Remember to take your separated paper products, cardboard, and your aluminum and steel cans to Elk EcoCycle. They are open Monday through Wednesday from 8 to 4 for your convenience. As I've reported in the past, the city prepared 4 major water and wastewater projects to be considered for the ARPA grant awards. The city was fortunate to receive our full request of $3.5 million to fund our wastewater treatment plant. It remains to be seen when we will get notice that we can go through the process necessary to secure those funds. You all probably know by now that Herb Doby will be the next mayor of Torrington. He's sitting back there. Thank you for being here. The next 2 councilmen will be Wayne Deal and Shane Victorin, and Shane is also here. Thank you for being here. All 3 will be sworn in at the first council meeting in January on Tuesday the 3rd. They will join Councilman Rick Patterson and Councilman Dennis Kelly to round out the new council. Also on the ballot was a request from the City of Torrington for a favorable vote on the stormwater utility. That effort failed to receive enough votes to move forward. As a reminder, Goshen County Economic Development's annual meeting is set for Thursday the 17th at 21st and Main. Chief of Police Matt Johnson has been nominated for Community Leader Award, and our electrical department employee Michael Schuler has been nominated as Community Volunteer of the Year. Along with Chief Johnson and Michael Schuler, a number of very fine community-involved individuals were also nominated and will receive recognition at that meeting. And that's the information for tonight. Okay, next item of business is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the 11/01/22 council meeting as published.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Councilman Kelly, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Kinney, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have approved the consent agenda. Next is to approve the agenda, and before we move too much further ahead, we have 2 amendments to add. The first one will be added right after public forum on your agenda, and we'll call it 1A. It is a request from Buck Clamola to be on the agenda regarding the traffic control at Albany and Laramie Streets. The second amendment to the agenda will go at number 5. We'll call it 5A, and it is wage study results. And when we get to that, we'll bring that up. Other than that, that's all the changes to the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda with the amendments.
Councilman Steinbach, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved the amended agenda. Nothing in the public forum, so we'll move right to item 1A. That is a request from Buck Clamola regarding the traffic control at Albany and Laramie. Buck, come on up to the podium. While he's on the way up here, I'd like to read what he has given as his reason for addressing the council. It says, recently stop signs were added to the intersection of Albany Avenue and Laramie Street. I have requested copies of the accident history and speed study that led to this change. Was told there are none. I feel this change is unwarranted and creates an unjustified inconvenience for residents west of the intersection. You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, and thank you for getting me on the agenda. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Buck Clamola. I'm a registered professional civil engineer and have been a transportation engineer for 40 years. My father-in-law was Hal Brethauer. He was one of the major developers in Torrington, Wyoming. He built over 200 residential homes prior to doing a lot of commercial work, donated the ground for the hospital, built Banner Health, built Peak Wellness, built the Goshen Care Center, as well as dorms at the college and other things up in that area. 2 of the last houses that he built were my wife's and her sister's on Sheridan Court. All the developments that he constructed within the town of Torrington, he paved the streets, provided the curb and gutter, and it was up to the landowners to provide the sidewalk. Our street was no different. He paved Sheridan Court. The cost of our lot reflected the cost of that additional monies needed to pave that and provide the curb and gutter. We paid for the sidewalk, as did our neighbors who just recently moved in. Prior to the development of the 4th filing of Halco 4th edition, some lots were sold at the end of Albany. Those lots were sold at a discount rate because they weren't paved. It's up to the developer to do the paving. Consequently, Albany was never paved. After that, my father-in-law did build some more houses up on Laramie Street, and even though it's not completely developed, he paved and provided the curb and gutter for that entire section of Laramie Street. We've lived at Lot 5 of the 4th filing of the Halco 4th edition now for 11 years. During that time, our road is bladed perhaps semi-annually, more often than not annually. For the last several years, from the end of Laramie Street to what is platted as Washakie Street but signed as Goshen Street, that one block, along with the remainder of Goshen Street, if you will, has had mag chloride applied a couple times a year. There's been instances where the application of that has precluded us. So our house is located right here. This is Laramie Street. This is the block that goes up to the sports complex. This portion of Albany and Sheridan Street, like I said, they get bladed maybe once, twice a year. Never have had mag in 11 years that I've been there. Recently, a four-way stop condition has been added to this intersection. There was already a stop sign at this intersection, and this was through traffic. Now, these people here and the people from vice presidential and presidential estates that utilize West C Street via the alley between, this is mislabeled, this is not Albany Avenue, that's an alley, now have to pull up here and stop before continuing on. The speed limit on Albany is 25 miles per hour. By statute, unless otherwise signed, the speed limit for an area is 30 miles an hour. School zones are signed at 20 miles an hour, and usually that's only during the time that school's in, or in some instances, if they have flashing lights when school is being begun or ended for that day. It's not 20 miles an hour on the weekend, it's not 20 miles an hour on holidays, and it's certainly not 20 miles an hour during the summer. When this was replatted, it was when the ground was sold to the county for the Alzheimer's unit construction here, and at some point in time, they talked about maybe building some apartments along this side. These lots were all subdivided, or divided into the soccer fields, and north of that, the baseball complex. The houses at the corner of Albany and Laramie were constructed, I would say, around 2008. Again, no paving was done in front of those. We paved our cul-de-sac, Sheridan Court. No dust abatement has been applied to Sheridan Street. The speed limit is 25 miles an hour in front of the hospital. There's pedestrian crossings. If you move the image to the east a little bit, right in this area, there's two sets of pedestrian crossings for people to travel back and forth between the clinic and the hospital. That's 25 miles an hour. Those are adults. They should be able to look both ways and cross in the crosswalks, which in most of the time that happens. A 15-mile-an-hour speed limit is an unreasonable speed limit. If the premise is that it's a gravel road, then I point out that 13th Street is also a gravel road, and it's posted at 30 miles an hour near an elementary school for eastbound traffic. N Street is a gravel road. It's posted at 20 miles an hour. Again, 15 miles an hour speed limit doesn't make a lot of sense. The way that the stop sign is set up now at Albany, people are required to stop with their rear tires on the gravel portion of the street prior to proceeding. That section, due to the soccer fields, there's many times during the winter that in order for us to leave our house, we've got to drive up through here because this is completely drifted shut. So now we've tried to apply a means of protecting I'm not sure whom in winter months when the soccer field is locked up. You can't even access the soccer field. And I'm asking why we have a stop condition there. I asked for warrants. I asked for crash history that justified such a stop sign. I asked for speed studies that showed the rationale behind 15-mile-an-hour speed limit in that area. And as far as I know, there are no such studies. So I'm asking the council, why is that stop sign, that newly placed stop sign, warranted? If you look at Albany, Albany is a through street. Campbell is also a through street, and if you follow it on up, it loops around and ties into the sports complex on the north end. So there's more than one way to get there. We're not asking for a stop sign at Campbell and Albany. That's because Albany has primacy. It heads to the hospital. It's a through street. That's how it was designed. So I guess I'm asking the council to reconsider the placement of the stop sign and to return the speed limit of Albany and Sheridan to 25 miles an hour.
Buck, as I told you before, The decision to put stop signs at that corner was made because of repeated efforts to try to control speed, dust, and safety along that street. We've tried lots of things. Superintendent of Streets and Sanitation, Holly, at one time suggested we put rumble bars in there. Well, rumble bars isn't going to work. It's going to cause in the dirt, wouldn't make much sense, wouldn't last, not a good solution. We've tried lowering the speed limit. As you say, we moved it to 15 miles per hour. That really didn't do any good because nobody seems to obey the speed limit at 15 miles per hour. We tried increasing the police presence at that intersection and along that street. When the police vehicles are there, people obey the law and slow down. When they're not there, it doesn't seem really change much. So putting that four-way stop at that corner was a solution at this point. And like I told you, Superintendent Holly has plans to do something with that road in the near future. We also know that the residents along Albany there on the north side are planning to put in curb and gutter. And so in the next budget cycle, I would guess, Ed's going to request the money to improve that street, improve that situation. And maybe at that point, we'll reevaluate.
So
But
during
that's
the
where we're
winter
at this
months,
point. Go
during the
ahead.
winter months when there's nothing going on at the sports complex is the time to decide whether or not that's an effective measure to prevent. It sounds like the whole rationale behind it is dust.
And speed and safety.
Okay, so that's why I asked initially for crash histories at the intersection of Albany and Laramie, and for the speed study that showed the excessive speeds that traffic were traveling on
Yeah, and
that.
I told you that there are none.
And so where
Chief
is the
Johnson, I
question
know,
for
has
safety?
emails back and forth between the people up there who complain and himself and the efforts made that are trying to stop it. But there's not crash studies, there's not accident studies. You're right. But it's an effort to try to do something at this point.
And
I
it's been
realize it inconveniences you. We all know that.
It's been in place for a month now. How has it worked so far?
Pat, can you comment?
We haven't had any complaints on speed since it's been put in.
No complaints either way?
Again, we haven't seen a lot of presence over the last 2 or 3 weeks there.
Yeah.
But
During this time of year, we're not.
complaint-wise, I've complained a number of times about the inability for me to access my property due to traffic jamming the section of Albany from Goshen to here, where cars are parked diagonally along this side and cars are parked out here. We had to fence off this down here because cars were parking on these lots and tearing up all the dirt. There's a big parking lot up here for cars to park. Changing the 15-mile-an-hour speed signs to no parking signs certainly would do more to abate any instance of pedestrian vehicle conflict and making people park up here, or turning some of this into a parking lot and allow this street to open. We've had to call at times because if there was a need for emergency services, there's no way to get to our house. This road's completely blocked. They block the alley. And granted, when we've called in, Torrington PD has come up and helped abate some of that. We still get people parking here. Generally, we just go run them off. You can see how fragile this ground is in trying to keep it seated and keep the dust down. But again, nothing has been done on this street for 11 years. We get all the dust, but I guess the difference was we didn't complain. So we're remiss and being overlooked because we knew that it wasn't a paved street. We tried to get an improvement district. The problem is the city would be responsible for the cost of half of this road from here to here. The county would be responsible for half of the entire road. And then the residents would pay their pro rata share for the rest of the road. So we're farly outnumbered.
Well,
Again, like I said, I don't discount that perhaps this might slow some of the traffic down. Quite frankly, a lot of that traffic is coming from here and cutting across here. I know at times they tried to block off that alley. If I lived up here at the Campbell Apartments, I would come down Laramie rather than come down the gravel road and come here. It's the same distance, and I don't have to drive in the gravel. You know, perhaps blocking off, if you really want to affect things, blocking off that portion of what you guys call Goshen Street, but it's platted as Washakie, would accomplish that. And again, no parking along this side here. There's ample room for parking on this side of the field, but over here, the same thing. People park clear out in the street. People park diagonal up here. You can look down the curb line and see that they're parked in the street. And during the events, traffic's lucky to be going 5 miles an hour through there.
Buck, who owns that property that's just to the west of,
This one?
no, south there? That whole field right in there, yeah.
Goshen County, I believe.
Goshen County.
Yeah, I believe they bought that whole thing. If you could scroll up just a little bit. At one point in time, there was 160 feet. In fact, the city built the water tower on the wrong lot. And there was 160 feet of land along here that was not in the city limits. That's the fourth replat. We redesigned this section of the fourth edition and turned it into 6 bigger lots. Before it was a smaller cul-de-sac 160 feet further up with smaller lots in it. We redesigned that and replatted that because when the county bought it, they wanted all the way to, this is actually the center of section. So that's the quarter section line that runs through there. And the county wanted the whole thing.
Buck, you said the city, maybe this is irrelevant now, but you said the city built the water tower in the wrong place?
Yeah.
What do you mean the wrong place?
Well, they thought they were building it on a lot. Hal sold them a lot to put the tower on, but it was up here. This 160 feet was never in the city limits. So they actually built that tower outside the city limits on his property. And he said, no big deal, I just want a penny a gallon pass-through fee and we'll call it square. But at the end of the day, they just replatted it and changed it and made it right. But yeah, initially, in the third filing, this 160 feet roughly was outside the city limits.
Well, can you move back up there, Dennis? Well, no doubt you are inconvenienced in more ways than one. You talk about the weather, you talk about the parking along your exit route and so on. You talk about the speed limit, having to stop at the stop sign. Those are inconveniences. Things that we can in the future fix. But right now, and this has been, I don't know how long this stop sign's been there. A month?
Since October 11th. October 11th.
So a month, basically. And at this point, I think it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's slowing people down. Unfortunately, it's making you stop. But the dust is down, even though there's not people there. And it is safer, and it will be safer come next spring until we get the surface done and the curb and gutter done. It will be safer for kids who are walking along that street.
There's no sidewalk to walk on.
I hope that's in the plan. Anything in that plan, Ed, about the sidewalk?
It'll be the landowner's responsibility.
Apparently, they have given their,
They have
they have said they're gonna do that. So it will be there. It's gonna be inconvenient for a little while.
And at that point in time, then we're going to continue with a 15-mile-an-hour speed zone and the stop condition at that
Well, I
location?
would think at that time, we would reevaluate. If 15 miles per hour works here, once we get the street fixed, I don't know that there'll be a need for that. Maybe 25, like you say, is the appropriate speed, but I don't know that either. That's going to be more determination by the police department and so on.
Well, technically, with the placement of the new signs, which are located here and here, the speed limit for eastbound traffic on Albany all the way in front of the hospital is 15 miles an hour because there's no speed limit sign here kicking them back up to 25. So technically, all eastbound traffic on Albany is a 15-mile-an-hour speed zone.
Yeah, and I can't argue that because I don't know
And with respect to
that.
the dust, saying that the dust has slowed down, I took some videos at 15 miles an hour and 25 miles an hour. I'm assuming to gauge the dust and everything, we did a high-volume particulate sampler to find out the amount of airborne dust when it was posted at 25, so we can compare that to the dust at 15.
And
We did that, so we got something to compare to.
so what'd you find?
No, I'm asking you.
Oh.
I'm saying, you're saying that there's less dust, so I'm assuming that we did a control. We took high-volume particulate samplers,
That has not
and
been done.
that hasn't been done. So everything's just the seat of the pants kind of thing right now is what we're going by.
Well, I'm just telling you the efforts that we've made and the reasons why we've made it. It may not be the way you want it, and obviously it inconveniences you, but temporarily, at this point, it is serving its purpose. Hopefully, we can improve that whole situation within not too much time. Ed?
At Washakie or Goshen and Fremont, which is further to the north, there's a 15-mile-an-hour sign that's been there since I've been with the city. On Teton Street coming off of County Road 74, there's also a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit sign,
There's also one on Campbell.
and there's one on Campbell.
Right. There wasn't one on Sheridan. And there's nothing kicking westbound traffic, or eastbound traffic back up to 25, do you agree? So that means eastbound traffic in front of the hospital is 15 miles an hour, correct?
The signs are posted.
So it looks like we do have to look at what we've done.
That would be a good
We're not going to
idea.
make that decision tonight,
No, I didn't expect you to.
but I appreciate your
Yeah.
information. Obviously, you've provided us information we didn't know, we're not aware of. We'll see where we can go with it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Just a comment, if I could. It does seem like, we're kind of piecemealing it. And probably the whole thing needs some kind of systematic study. The parking problem, the various speed limits, location of the traffic control, the stop signs, those kind of things. So, yeah, I very much think we need to not just look at that, but look at the
We
whole.
just need to complain a little more is what it sounds like in order to be heard.
Well, you complained tonight, and I've heard you,
Well-
and you've complained to me a couple of times via email, and I've heard you.
Yeah, and this is the first I think
understand.
most of us have heard.
Which is why I wanted to bring it
Yeah,
before the
and
council.
we always, yeah,
Thank you.
always good to hear from somebody that,
Yeah.
where there is a concern, so we know
I
we
know on
need to.
that street up there, there's been a dust complaint ever since the street was there. Every year they complain about the dust.
Where-
No, on Albany,
Oh.
up by the soccer fields there.
Yeah.
Those two houses there, they complain about the dust every year.
And we haven't.
And I know Ed.
We get the same dust, if not more, because ours is at mag chloride.
Well,
So is your house in the county?
No,
It's not.
no, if you go down. So this is our house, this is Tom and Sherry
Yeah.
Kelly's house. Recently, Doug and Nancy White purchased this and put a house on this property, and there's still 3 lots left over here that are for sale at this time.
and it's not county, it's city?
Yeah, it's all city.
They said that one big area there was county.
The county owns
Owns
it,
it.
but it's in the
It's in the
city
city.
limits.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because when this was replatted, like I said, originally this 160 feet through here was not in the city limits. The last time I was here, which was 11, 12 years ago, the city had run their power through here. And it should have been up 160 feet. So I asked that the power be placed underground from here to here and then brought back up. All the subdivisions that my father-in-law built, he put the power underground. Leroy Smith, who was here 30-some years ago, didn't like underground power very well. Dana doesn't have as much an issue with it, but anytime there was a problem, Leroy put it above ground. So there are some places within that Halco subdivision where there are overhead power lines, and that's where, maybe they hit an underground line or whatever, and Leroy just went overhead. Which is done in the alleys and easements and things like that, but the city had no right to be down here since that was not in the city limits at that time. I think in the fourth filing, all of this was brought into the city limits because this was in the city limits prior to the county purchasing it. So the county is no different than you or I as far as a landowner within the city. It doesn't make it county outside the city limits.
Right.
By it being owned by them.
Right.
No more than the courthouses.
But if that's a county property and it faces Albany, I doubt if the county would ever put the sidewalk, curb and gutter in.
Which is why I asked originally for an improvement district.
Well, Buck, I think we understand and we appreciate that you're much more articulate than the typical person who complains at the city council meeting. You have a good understanding of what's going on there, and we have a better understanding now than we did before. So we will be considering this going forward. It's going to require a lot more discussion than we've done in the past, but I appreciate your concern. I appreciate you coming to us.
And again, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come here.
Sure. Thanks,
Just
Buck.
One more question.
Go ahead, Dennis.
When you mentioned that gets covered with snow drifts there, you can't get through it,
No,
do you ever call Ed and tell him about it?
no, I just tell Tom, don't be driving through there. Tom gets stuck, and then it gets worse. Most of the time you can drive along this edge. The problem is the soccer field is about 2 feet higher than the road.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to stop that snow, so it comes down and it drifts across there. So he just takes off and drives through here. I try to drive along the shoulder as long as he doesn't get stuck or have somebody come try to pull him out and they get stuck. I guess that's the difference in growing up in Torrington and Hannah.
Would it be beneficial to put a snow fence up there?
No.
I don't think it would make the price.
I mean,
It'd make it worse.
It would make it drift worse.
Yeah, I think.
you could try to put a temporary snow fence up in this area, but it's the big storms. What happens is snow ends up on the soccer fields.
Yeah.
And then you'll get a big storm that comes in with a north wind. The typical west winds, it blows on across because this ground is fairly level. When you park here, the field's not that much higher than the road, but it is about 2 feet higher than the road over here. Our prevailing winds come from this direction mostly, but when we get the north winds with the big storms, that's when that gets drifted shut. And it usually only lasts 3 or 4 days. I go get the skid steer a lot of times and just clean it out. Same for our approach here. I take care of that. Ed was kind enough to give me a dump truck load of crushed concrete that I mixed with some binder so it would hold together more like a base, because I had it fairly well shaped up, and then the city came and tested the fire hydrants and washed it all out. So Ed brought me a load of crushed concrete, and I brought the skid steer down, fixed it all back up again, and it's decent right now. So, anyone
Again,
else?
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thanks.
being here.
So you're saying the fire hydrants work
Something needs to
okay?
be done.
Yeah, the fire hydrants work.
All right, moving on to item number 1 of the action items. We have a special event permit request. Leanne Mattis and Mariah Harkins with Goshen County Economic Development are requesting a special event permit for the 2022 Christmas Parade to be held on 12/02/22 from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I believe Leanne is here, and she's at the podium. Very good. Thank you, Leanne. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thanks so much for welcoming me this evening. Yeah, we're really excited to get going with our Christmas events. I don't know how many years we've done this, first weekend of December, Christmas parade on Friday night, and then kind of a few different activities throughout the day on Saturday. So yes, a special events permit and a request to waive the fee, as this is a great activity to promote community and economic well-being here in Torrington. If I leave any information out, please feel free to ask questions, but we plan on beginning the parade at 6:15. Probably around 10 to 20 vehicles through the parade. It's typically not as big as the fair parade, so a little bit smaller. Traveling down Main. We will, of course, with our marketing efforts, encourage people to watch the parade in the downtown area rather than, in the
Business
The
district.
residential area.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. And of course, for safety reasons. And we don't plan on closing the streets down until around 5:45, so it'll be after business hours for most of those Main Street businesses. Of course, the police department and fire department are always a huge help in getting us set up and going and kind of guiding folks through the parade. And yeah, as soon as the parade concludes, we'll be sure to pick up any barriers and make sure people can utilize the streets again.
Thank you. And certainly, we understand the value of this, and we certainly want to support it. And it's always been a good event. The police department, like you say, and the fire department are really seriously and importantly involved. And I know that Matt's had a lot of chats with you about what we need to do there. So
Absolutely, yeah.
I think we're in pretty good shape. Council, do you have any questions or concerns for her?
The only negative at all is it's the same night as the City of
Oh,
Torrington Christmas party.
that's what I
So the police
hear.
have to work.
I think you guys need to change that.
Yeah.
I know, I have heard that, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah, I don't know who I need to talk to get
So you can
that
change
city
the parade
party
to 2
changed.
o'clock in the afternoon.
On a Friday.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Throw any
think
kids
I
there.
would move to approve
Yeah, I would
this and waive
second
that.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Kinney, thank you. We have a
It's a
motion
great
and a
event.
second to approve the permit and waive the fee?
Yes.
Waive the fee, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Have fun. See you there.
All right, at this point, we are going to close our regular session of the Torrington City Council meeting and open a Board of Adjustment. Board of Adjustments are necessary whenever we want to change zoning or specific requirements and so on that require that kind of attention. What happens in a public hearing is that we're going to hear some information from Buildings and Grounds Superintendent Estes. We're going to hear some information from some other people. And once that's done, we'll have the opportunity for people who are here to speak either in favor or against the proposed changes. And once those are done and all questions have been answered, then we'll go back and vote. The council will vote either in favor of approving the plats or opposing the plats. The first one is Volunteers of America requesting approval of a preliminary plat for Lot A of the Southwest Wyoming Mental Health Center. Second filing of the Halco First Edition. Mr. Estes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you can see on the screen, what they're asking for, Volunteers of America is the new owner of Peak Wellness. Peak Wellness right now has purchased this, or Peak Wellness is this building, and this lot here. So currently, the way it sits, this is all one lot. So what they're asking is to vacate that plat, replat it into 3 lots. So in this area behind Marsh's dentistry and the public health building, they want to break it up into these lots here, which is Lot 1, of course, Peak Wellness old building, We have added a new egress and ingress access here off of Campbell. Lot 2, of course, is the apartments buildings off of Albany. And Lot 3 is this big empty lot that they would like to do there. The issue with this preliminary plat is we have some issues with easements in here. Currently, there's an easement all the way around this for utilities, which is good for everybody. Right here, it's kind of gets convoluted a little bit and gets to be a mess. So in the Planning Commission, we spoke with Benchmark, which is the land engineers for this. They're doing the work for this company. So like this line right here is an easement that sticks up above this property line. We want to move that back down. This property here is, of course, the old Barney property that is not within the city limits and currently surrounded 100% by city. This alley here, when Hal redid these, when he built these townhouses up here, he gave the city an easement here for just utilities. It is not a dedicated right-of-way to the public. It is not a legal alley that you could legally drive on, although that happens all the time. So the city staff are pretty concerned about getting this opened up into a public right-of-way. So we've asked the owners here on this plat, which stops right here at this blue line. We've asked these owners if they would like to dedicate this to the public. We're going to work out an easement here to get Mr. Hawley's garbage trucks in and out of here so he doesn't have to back up. That's not good for us, backing up garbage trucks. So we want to make this a legal right-of-way. We're going to get that figured out. The Planning Commission did approve it with contingency that it satisfied the city staff and everybody was happy. So if this gets approved tonight, it will go back to Benchmark. They will work with the owners, and then it will be represented as a final plat if all this goes through. So I would stand for any questions.
Do these people who are asking for this, do they have plans to construct something?
We have not heard of any development plans on Lot 3.
I was at the commission meeting when they discussed this, and nobody said anything about why they even want to split them up. Has anybody ever mentioned that?
No.
I suspect that lot set vacant with a new company running Peak Wellness, it would allow them to sell it.
The only other thing I have would be Lot 3 is 1.92 acres, and I would imagine that at some point in time, they want to subdivide that.
Possibly.
And I don't know what that would do with utilities and stuff, but
Well, like I said, there's utility easement all the way around it. We have plenty of utilities there. But at that time, when they presented it, we would just have to look and see what they wanted to do. Fire access is really the biggest deal here.
Yeah.
Getting a fire truck all the way around this thing, so that would have to be part of the development. The other thing is stormwater drainage. I don't know if they could get the water to run out to Campbell, but depending on what they do in there.
and they're going to plan on making an access and utility easement there coming off of Albany.
Off of Albany. Right now, it is utility access only, but Ed's been using his garbage trucks are in and out of there. That's the only way he can get in and out to service these townhomes. And I think there's a dumpster right here in this corner, if I remember right. Pretty tight in there with these trees. They're going to see if they can move this line down and get some radius here that we can get around that corner.
So will that one go clear to West C then?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. I believe Ed's trucks come in off of West C maybe, and then go out on Albany or vice versa.
Yeah, okay.
So if we approve this request, then it's a matter of the city making all that stuff that you just talked about work.
Correct. If you would approve that tonight, Benchmark would work with our public works staff and get that the way they would like it. And then if the owners agreed to that, they would bring it back as a final plat for final approval.
Okay.
The other thing here that you'd be aware of on Albany, there is a project plan for a new water line. Part of that water line project, I think Mark Weiss put some money in to stub into here a sewer line, because currently this lot right here is not serviceable with sewer. So in any future development there, we're going to have sewer here somewhere so they could tap into that somehow. That is on the books. It's really not in the budget yet, though.
Okay. All right. All right, let's go to the other one, Dennis. GG Ella Holdings LLC is requesting a zone change from R3 residential to C1 commercial on Lot 9 and 10, Block 5, Torrington, 5th Edition.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all probably know, some of you are a little more experienced than me in the history of the Wagner's Floral. Wagner's Floral building has been Wagner's Floral since, I believe, the early 40s. And all through the 40s and 50s, it was operated as a restaurant, a little store, floral shop, what have you. But let me get in the right spot here. Am I lost? Gotta go down right there.
Yeah.
Right there, sorry.
There we go. Let the computer catch up. So what's going on in the history of the Wagner's Floral? We all know where it's at. Wagner's Floral has been a floral shop forever. It was never zoned anything other than residential. And it continued like that till 1971 when the city rezoned everything in town. So in our ordinance, it's considered a legal non-conforming use. It can stay that use and keep operating as it was for 100 years if they don't change the use to something more restrictive or increase the footprint of the building or something like that. So it's been operated as a flower shop, as you know, for all them years. And then I believe it got purchased. They did the flower shop. And now it is sold again, and they want to do something different. So that's when the zoning issue popped up, because everybody assumed it was commercial because it was commercial forever. But it never was legally commercial. So to protect the new owners, they've decided to zone it to C1, to where it's just a regular commercial building. So if this would go through, I think they have plans to do something different with that property. The owner is here, so if you would like to speak to her, she'd be more than welcome to stand for questions. Staff would recommend approval. We really had nobody in opposition to it at the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Is that what we?
Come on up.
Oh, yeah, okay. Never mind.
Oh, what's going on with the computer? I apologize.
Hello.
Okay, thank you for coming.
No problem.
Go ahead.
My husband and I purchased this property understanding that it was commercial. And then on the county website, it shows up as commercial. And then when I came to do the utilities switch and all that, I was told that I was residential and that we needed to do a zoning change. So we're just here to change the zoning.
Just a point of clarification, as long as she brought that up. This property on the county's tax rolls is taxed commercial. It always has been taxed commercial. Anything other than that, like the residential, has always been taxed residential. A lot of the residents around there had called me prior to this was concerned their taxes was going to change. The county assessor assured me that it's still going to be charged commercial tax. Their taxes will not change unless something drastically changed in that area.
So you just want to be secure in the fact that you're getting what you...
Yeah.
The other thing that this does for the new owners, if it passes, is it allows them down the future to sell that as commercial property legally. The county commercial, and I get into this all the time with the counties because people look at the county assessor and say, oh, it's commercial. That's how it's taxed. That's not how it's zoned. Two separate issues.
I see.
And this is all a learning curve to me, so.
Okay. All right, good enough. Thank you.
Oh, do you guys have any questions for me or?
I don't have any questions at this point.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I think maybe Mr. Estes could explain to the rest of the council what the limits are on a C1 zoning.
Correct. C1 zoning allows about 30 different uses, I believe. It's all in our ordinance book. One of the uses they're intending to put in there does allow for that. It's a light commercial. It's more of a shopping district type of deal. What they're looking for is like beauty shops, barber shops, fix-it shops, little food stores, stuff like that, parking lots. And like when you go around the Herstler building in Cheyenne, all those little shops they got around there in the residential zones, that's kind of what it's like. It's just, so we don't anticipate any negative effects to the public. I don't think they'll even know the difference.
Okay. If there are no further questions, we're going to move on to public hearing. We have 2 public hearings to hold. In a public hearing situation, you'll have the opportunity to speak for the change, or you have the opportunity to speak against the change. It's totally up to you. The first one we're going to consider is the Volunteers of America requesting approval of the preliminary plat of the Southwest Wyoming Mental Health Center. That's the one that Dennis explained to you first. And at this point, we'll open a public hearing. If there are people here tonight who would like to speak in favor of that change, now's the time to come to the podium and speak. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to speak in favor of that? For a final time, anyone here who would like to speak in favor? I don't see anybody rising to the occasion, so are there people here tonight who'd like to speak against that? Anyone like to speak against it? Anyone finally liking to speak against that? We'll close the public hearing at that point. Council, take action.
I would move to approve the request to Volunteers of America for the preliminary plat for Lot A of Southwest Wyoming Mental Health Center, and so on.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the change. Is there any further discussion?
Do we need to put in there about the boundary changes?
The boundary changes on the easements?
Yeah.
No, we're going to work with that. If you approve this tonight, like I said, it'll go back to benchmark. We'll work it out with the Public Works
Okay.
and make it to their satisfaction, and then we'll bring it back to you as a a final plat.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's move to a vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved the first action. Second one, GG Ella Holdings LLC requesting a zone change from R3 residential to C1 commercial on lots 9 and 10, Block 5, Torrington 5th Edition. A public hearing. Are there people here tonight who would like to speak in favor of that? Are there people here tonight who would like to speak in favor? Anyone like to speak in favor? Seeing no one rise to the occasion, are there people here tonight who'd like to speak against that? Anyone like to speak against it? I see a bunch of young men out there that are afraid I'm going to call on them. Anyone like to speak against it? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Council will take action.
I would move to approve this zone change.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Kelly, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the request change from R3 residential to C1 commercial. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We have approved both of them. Mr. Estes, go forward. Thank you. And at this point, we'll turn the council to regular session.
Nice job, Rick. That was a better motion than I appreciate it.
All right, item number 3, ordinance on first reading, Attorney Eddington.
It's an ordinance amending and reenacting Section 18.16.020, the Torrington Municipal Code 2022 revisions relating to the city of Torrington, Wyoming, amending the zoning district map by establishing C1 zoning for attractive land.
Okay, Dennis, I believe we need a little explanation from you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is just the first reading of the ordinance for the zoning that you just approved in the public hearing. This is the Wagner Flower Shop. It is Lot 9 and 10, so it's the parking lot and the building. The first 2 lots on that from C Street. Block 5, Torrington 5th Edition. So this will be the first of 3 readings.
Okay, so if we approve tonight, then it'll come up first reading in December, second reading in December, and that'll do it.
Correct.
Okay, all right, good enough. Council.
Move to approve as presented.
Councilman Kelly, thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Councilman Kinney, thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance on first reading establishing the C1 zoning for Lot 9 and 10. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We got that done. Item number 4, ordinance on first reading. Attorney Eddington.
An ordinance amending and reenacting Section 3.04.050 of the Torrington Municipal Code 2022 revisions relating to sanitation fees.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we're going to turn it over to Director of Public Works Harkins for explanation. I believe Ed is also here to add to it also. So you guys, it's in your hands.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you remember, we had a work session a little over a month ago to discuss this proposed ordinance. Now we're bringing it forward to the council. Nothing's changed in the ordinance from that work session. The fees and everything are still the same as we discussed during the work session. The major changes to the ordinance were the baler tipping and the landfill tipping. In the landfill tipping, we went to a charge per pound instead of a charge per ton with a minimum charge. And the same with the baler tipping. We were just trying to make it easier for the baler staff to recognize what they should be charging for the garbage that comes to the baler. Previously, it was set up as a per cubic yard type charge. Now we're just going to go based on what kind of vehicle is bringing in the waste. If it's a passenger vehicle or a small pickup truck, they'll get charged one rate. If it's a pickup truck that's, piled high over the bed, then they'll be charged a separate rate over that. If it's a car or a truck that's bringing in a trailer, that'll be a different charge. But it'll be easy for the baler staff to recognize what's going on and being able to charge the appropriate amounts. The rest of the ordinance was just basically cleaning up some of the wording from the past ordinance and maybe setting up a few additional items. One of them that is kind of universal nowadays is a fuel surcharge that most other waste companies add that, and other services like concrete, stuff like that, they'll have a fuel surcharge. And that's just basically needed because of the inconsistencies in the fuel market as related to, diesel costs. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, but right now it's going way up, so.
It seems to me this simplifies and clarifies for our staff their understanding of what they need to charge for whatever service they're providing. Would that be close?
That was the intent.
Okay, very good. Council, do you have any questions for Director Harkins?
I move to approve this ordinance on first reading.
Thank you, Councilwoman Steinbach.
I'll second that.
And a second by Councilman Patterson. We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance on first reading relating to sanitation fees. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harkins. Item number 5, proclamation. Attorney Eddington.
Whereas the government of the city of Torrington, Wyoming celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of the net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.8% of employees in the private sector in the United States. Whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday. 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year long. Whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. Whereas the City of Torrington, Wyoming supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. Whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, Randy L. Adams, Mayor of the City of Torrington, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year.
Thank you, Attorney Eddington. I appreciate that. This is something that has come to us, seems to me like it's been every year since I've been on the council or as mayor. And the whole point is to emphasize the importance of shopping local, particularly local on Small Business Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We've been an advocate for this for all these years. We continue to be an advocate for that, and we would encourage all of our citizens to do the same thing. It's very tempting in this day and age to go to Amazon and buy all your stuff from Amazon and not leave your recliner in front of your TV, but at the same time, we'd sure like to see people spend their money locally, and that's the intent of this proclamation. Council, do you have anything to add? Okay.
I'd move to approve the proclamation as read. Small
Councilman Kinney,
business,
thank you.
Small Business Saturday, November 26th.
Didn't mean to.
That's okay.
Second.
Second, Councilman Steinbach. We have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation proclaiming November 26th as Small Business Saturday. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now we get to one of the amendments that we added, and that is the wage study results. We have Councilman Hinney, who is here, who is the chairman of the Wage Committee. We also have Director of Public Works Harkins, and together I think that they can explain the
They will do
wage
well.
study results. Let's start with Director of Public Works Harkins.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, we had a work session yesterday to discuss the outcome of the study that the Wage Committee budgeted for with a private individual, private company. As a result of that, we came up with recommendations for all the various positions and a wage scale for all those various positions as a result of that. There was some discussion as how we came to that evaluation of the points in that, and Lynette sent each of you copies of the sheets that we used to evaluate those positions. I hope that was informative, and hopefully that answered all your questions from the other day. Other than that, what I can say is that Lynette did send that email out, and the changes will amount to, for the rest of this fiscal year, will amount to about $50,534 if we enact this change effective. I think Lynette would like to see it first part of December. Other than that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have that weren't answered at the wage study.
Turn over to Councilman Kinney for a bit.
I really don't have much to add. This has gone through the Wage Committee. The Wage Committee did approve moving this on to the City Council, as I said yesterday, and we felt like this was a much better procedure of using points versus what we'd been doing in the past. And so I would encourage us to move this along.
One of the advantages of using this system is that it takes personality out of the picture, and you're talking about the job and the effort that is required and numerous factors, but leaving personality out of it, so that whatever you would determine, whoever would come in and take that job position, it should be universally the same. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's based on the job description and not the individual that's currently in the position.
Okay.
So, exactly.
There's a good chance that there might be some more questions. Anybody have a question?
I have a comment. I reviewed the material that was sent out. I've seen those before in various forms and formats, but I was really impressed with that, how thorough it was. It was well done. Fully.
Yeah, it
You
is,
know,
and it's,
yeah.
the nice part about it is we now own that
Yes.
spreadsheet so that Lynette or whoever the treasurer, or yeah, the city treasurer is, can make those adjustments, and it's not as time-consuming as it had been in the past. It's a very quick calculation that runs through it automatically now.
Well, and it seems like it's objective, so that when we have a position, you plug that into that formula and work it through, and then it's competitive in the market, which is necessary, especially these days, that's necessary to hire and retain employees. But it's also, it's objective. It's based on something just other than my opinion that this job is more valuable than this one, so.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other concerns or questions or comments? I might add that before we go to a motion, Chief Johnson, who is not here tonight, he's teaching a class in northern Kentucky, fulfilling some of the obligations of his job. He was integral in setting up this study, and there was some concern, I know, that it would not benefit the police department as much as it should have. Chief Johnson, unfortunately, like I said, is not here, but he'd be glad to explain that to anybody else that would need an understanding regarding the police department. So I would just add that for comment. Okay. Council?
I would move to approve the wage study results.
Councilman Kinney, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Steinbach, thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the wage study results. Is there further discussion?
I think, did Lynette want it specific to this pay period?
I think we
Could we
need to
put
add
in the
that.
motion so it's?
So it's
And the
effective.
change in the budget.
Yeah.
that it will-
Effective December
The
1st?
pay period ending December 4th.
Okay.
We don't need to adjust the budget at this time, do we?
No, I believe she'll present that
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, Councilman Kinney, is that okay with
Yes.
you?
Yes.
And a second, Kate?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the wage study results and make them effective with the pay period ending December 4th. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, good enough. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have unanimously approved that. Item number 6, proposal for the 2023 golf season. Mr. Dent.
Not playing enough golf, are you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First off, I have the golf fees in front of me, and if you can see in the packet there, I took you back a few years so that you could see the increase from 19 all the way to 23. I think if you notice from 22 to 23, that's the biggest jump, and we'll use the single membership as just kind of a reference there, but if you look at them, 19 was $10, then 20 was $10. This is 50. This is one of the biggest jumps we've made, and significant. It's just where things are. Fuel's going up, electricity's going up. It's just a lot to maintain a golf course. But anyways, you can see what's in yellow is what we're proposing. What is not in yellow stays the same. And I'll give you, for instance, last year's 18-hole fee was 40 with a cart. It'll go to 45. with the green fee in the cart.
So I have a question. How do you regulate the 1-year city cart lease person per versus couple?
They just lease it between themselves. It can be you and I, and then they split the cost of that from January 1st to December 31st.
So instead of having two different amounts, can we just meet in the middle at 540? Or is that,
Well, that other one is a single. Are you talking about the 475 and the 5, or the 605?
yeah.
Yeah, the one is just for a single rider. So the other rider, if they happen to jump on there, would pay the regular daily fee.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It just seems like a lot of paperwork and a lot of keeping track of.
It's fairly simple. We
When
only
they-
do, those are city carts, Councilman, Councilwoman. Those are our city carts. We have 15 of them. We lease out 7 of them, which is really probably 2 more than we should. But we base it on the rounds that we have and who's using them. So 7 of them generates about $4,200 if you do the average. So we did that to increase revenue, and so that they're not sitting there, so that they're being used. So we don't get everybody that wants to pair up. So there's always somebody that just wants to single out.
Okay.
But again, if somebody wants to jump on that cart with them, they're paying for that seat, the additional $14, which happens a lot, which is okay with me.
Okay.
And if you notice that the 9-hole fee didn't change, it's 20, that's because we increased the cart fee by 2 to get it to 30.
Dave, could you explain what information you used to come up with these changes?
Well, on your second page, you have some references from some of the golf courses that we feel like we should be compared to that aren't far from us. And not everything they do, we do, or we do that they do. But ours is in the yellow there, and if you go down, for instance, and if you go, I like to use the single annual fee. It's down in the middle of the page, down below annual fees. You'll see ours is $550, and then across the board, we're not out of line. We want to kind of keep up in that area, but we don't want to be the highest, nor do we want to be the lowest. But we want to be the best. And out of all these golf courses, I would take us over any of them. Not that those other golf courses have any negatives about them, but I feel like our golf course stands out above all of them. So that's just reference for you to see that what we do is we just try to keep up an average where they're at, where we're at, and they do the same with us.
I think you pointed out to me that some of the golf courses that are located on interstate highways have the option of maybe charging a little bit more than we do, since we're not on interstate and don't have that kind of tourist traffic.
Yeah, that's something to look at. I mean, I-90 and I-25, Buffalo, Gillette, I've looked at their fees, and they're significantly higher than ours, especially Gillette. You know, Cheyenne, even Kimball. I think if you look, Kimball's green fees are a little bit higher than we are, but they have access right out of Cheyenne, which by the way, Cheyenne's using Kimball a lot, because Cheyenne, you can't really get D-times. And we get a lot of those. In fact, we get them from Douglas, Alliance, Cheyenne, Casper, Scottsbluff, even from Colorado. Which I might add, if the numbers keep going the way they are, we'll get near or above 17,000 rounds this year, which is the most I've seen since I've been here. And I'm trying to break that down into green fees and annual players and green fees. I'm working with economic development on that. So hopefully we'll have some numbers with Brayden and I that can show you the green fee effect and the dollars spent in this community from them being here. I think that's significant, really due to the fact that the bottom line number is not just the deficit, it is adding back to this community and the tax dollars and the people coming here to spend their money. They're going to do it somewhere. They're going to eat, they're going to buy gas, they're going to go to the convenience store. They're going to spend money while they're here, not just at the golf course. So that's a good reference, if you had any other questions on that.
Dave, would you like us to take action on that before you go to the time schedule?
I would, Mayor. Give me 1 second here. I just want to look at
Okay.
this, make sure I'm where I want to be here. Oh, if you look at trail fees,
On which sheet?
on the first sheet.
Okay.
If you look at the trail fees, we'd like to take those from 200 to 250, which is a bit significant, but we break the 200 down into every other year for equipment and then trail fees. That's helped us tremendously when you all passed that several years ago to try to keep the upgraded dinosaurs from becoming those. So that's helped us a bunch. So the 250 that I want to put in there is really designed, hopefully, to be air tagged to help the parking lot. As you've seen, we did about $80,000 worth of work in there, 75, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that was significant, and it was a huge improvement. That parking lot's been deteriorating pretty quick over the years. In fact, it took me 12 years to get that phase going. So any other parking lot in the city is important, and so is that one out there. So we've had discussion about how do you do that? How do you add a fee? How do you charge the player? How do you charge the people that use it the most? This would include the people that have carts out there that have memberships at the country club as well. So we're not picking on anybody. We're just trying to find a broader field to figure out how to take that money. And if you took that money every 4 years from the carts that are out there, that's about $30,000. I know it's only about $7,500 a year, but that could go to an additional sidewalk that didn't get put in, not the parking lot. Or we could hang on to it for 4 years and add that to the second phase, which would help Mr. Harkins, our engineer, because you always run into something. There's always something more out there significant or on anything that you do, not just our business. So I don't know, Mayor, where we have to go with that, and if that has to be approved by the city council. Can we air tag it that way?
I think we approve or not approve the fee. It's up to you how you want to divide it. Agree, Jim?
That work with you? Do it that way?
It's part of the budget process that would be approved at that point in time, I think.
So anyways, it's the direction I'd like to go, and that's the direction I'd like it to stay at. Trying to figure out how we're going to get the rest of that parking lot done and do my part in trying to figure out how to get the additional revenue resources for it. I'm looking into, other grants that might be out there. And I don't, the Goshen County Recreation Board, I don't think that's going to work. Maybe economic development, but maybe there's something else out there as well. Got to keep plugging away. Yes, but now, if you have any questions, I can answer that, or we can approve.
Council, do you have any questions for him on the proposed golf fees, golf rates? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the 2023 golf rates.
Thank you, Councilman Kenny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the 2023 golf rates as presented by Golf Pro Dave Dent. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved the rates. Okay, Dave, tournament schedule.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. 2023 tournament schedule has not changed that much, doesn't change much from year to year. The one change this year would be the Panhandle Senior ladies want to go from, let's see, where were they?
6-5.
They want to go from, later, they were later in the year, they want to move it to June 5th. That's really the only change that's on there, other than the date actually having to change in the year. It's not changing much, if any of it. And if it does change throughout the year, it's probably due to weather.
So essentially the same schedule as we approved last year.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much the same one. I do like to add, Mayor, that if you look to the far right of your sheet, we always add when we feel like the course is going to reopen to the public so that we could gather that extra additional revenue if it's available, so we can get them back on the course and get the tournament off the course.
Questions for Golf Pro Dent? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
We move to approve the 2023 golf tournament schedule as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Steinbach, excuse me. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the golf tournament schedule. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved the schedule.
Thank you, Mayor and
Go
Council.
forward. Thank you. All right, next item is to approve the bills from November 2nd through November 15th. Clerk Treasurer Strecker is in Lander for training, and she is being supported tonight by Rhonda. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say before we go to the bills?
No, I'm here to answer questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Council, take a look at the bills. Do we see anything there?
I asked her a couple already, so my questions have been answered.
Okay.
I have about 15 questions.
Really hard ones, is that what you're
No, I don't have any.
I don't have a question, but you might look on page 5, the second item on page 5, just informational.
The original set?
Of the
First or
second
second
set,
First set, I'm sorry.
First set.
First set. We paid $383,489.92 for municipal electrical power. Incredibly expensive. Nothing we can do about it. It's just the way it is. It's expensive. We could probably, compare it to other things and other communities and other sources, but I think we're getting probably a pretty good rate considering. It's just that the rates are high. It's just the way it is. That's all I have.
Are you ready for a motion?
If there are no other concerns or questions, yes.
I would move to approve payment of bills.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Kinney, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the bills. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Now it's time for your speech.
good evening.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, item number 8, public comment at this point in the evening. If there are people here tonight who would like to speak to the council, question the council, ask council questions, whatever it might be, this is an opportunity for you to come to the podium and take a couple minutes. We don't want, a political speech, but at the same time, if you have something you'd like to say, this is a good chance to do it. Sometimes we have comments from the council. Sometimes we have comments from our fire chief.
Newly married fire chief, by the way.
Newly married fire chief, that's right.
That was really fun.
And so on. So is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the council?
Can I say something? I would like
Mr.
to
Kinney.
I think it's really good that we're supporting our small businesses in the community. I think that's very important for us, and not only for the city, but the people in the community. That's how we keep businesses open. And so, you go downtown, you find something that you need, you think you need, then make that purchase. And my wife and I just did that today, so we didn't wait till after Thanksgiving. We had to do it today. So anyway, but it's so important for us to do that. So, and that's all I've got.
I don't think you get in trouble for shopping today.
No, I didn't.
Anyone else? Okay. If there's no other public comment, we'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah.
I'll move to
Councilwoman Steinbach, thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
Councilman Kenny, thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming. We had 4 guests here tonight from